Hello, everyone. You're listening to Unlocking Greatness podcast with Zenja Glass. Feel free to call me Z. I'm holding a box in my hand for those who are simply listening to the podcast. And the name of this podcast is going to be called You Are Important. I decided to do this podcast because I thought to myself today, I've never seen so many tired people in my life, including myself at times. I'm holding this really large box because this box is representing all of the pressures, all of the responsibilities that we carry around. Many of us have so many responsibilities. Now, it could be our children that we have to take care of. It doesn't even have to be our children. It could just be other people who are dependent on us. Doesn't matter whether that's, someone you love, maybe your mother, father, siblings, or in some cases, your whole family, right? It could be, your employees or what have you, but it could be just the financial pressures, just so many responsibilities that fall in your lap. Does that make sense? And all of us, and I was thinking about this today, all of us have our box. We all have these heavy responsibilities that we're so used to carrying around. And I think that's why I've never seen so many tired people in my life, especially with everything going on in the world right now. Everyone just seems, maybe I shouldn't say everyone, many people seem just so overwhelmed and so overloaded by everything going on. And for many of us, there's no one else for us to pass this to. We don't get to just say, hey, you take this. I mean, other than God, of course, so you know what I mean by that. But we don't get to pass this to someone else because the responsibility, unfortunately, for many of us, it falls on our plate. So the box belongs to us. And here's where I'm going with this, because you may say, well, how does this tie into you are important? You're important as well. And there are times when we have to sit this box down, and I did it today, and I'm going to get into what I mean by saying I did it today. We have to sit this box down for a little bit. And I know it's hard to do. I know. Because I can see right now some of you saying, but Z, I don't get to put it down. Every day it's like this, and I don't have any help, and I've got this to do and this to do, and if I don't do it, all the balls will come falling to the floor. Everything will come crashing down. I get it. I'm just talking a few minutes. You get to pick it back up again. Now, for those who are simply listening to the podcast, I just picked this huge box back up. So you get to pick it up again. You get to pick it back up. All I'm saying is, put it down sometimes just for a little bit. Just a little bit. Now, while this box is important, this is important as well. And for those of you who are simply listening to the podcast, I'm pointing to myself and I'm pointing into the camera. You're important as well. So when was the last time that you actually went and maybe even had a physical? When was the last time you've done that? And I can hear some people saying, well, Z, I don't have insurance and da-da-da. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Let's not make it about a physical if that's not something you can get done. When was the last time you took care of yourself where you're just exercising, maybe 10, 15 minutes a day? When was the last time you've done that? Consistently, not just, okay, I did it the other day, but consistently. When was the last time you really monitor what you're eating and how you're taking care of your body, what you're putting into yourself? This is important. We are important as well. And it's so hard for people like you and I to get that in our spirit, into our minds, into our hearts, because we have this huge box. And again, for those who are simply listening to the podcast, I picked up this huge box again. We always have this huge box in front of us. It goes with us to bed at night, which is why at nighttime we're thinking about the kids and bills and work and, a million and one other things on our plates. And you guys know I'm right. You know I'm right. And then even when you try to have those little times where you relax or what have you, this tends to follow right along. And you know that I'm right. Even when you try to do a little something for yourself, a lot of times you look around and that box is just right there attached to you. And all I'm saying, you all, is we only get to live one time. We only get to live once. We have to take care of ourselves as well. You are important as well. And let me just kind of go back a little bit. I went to my doctor today and had my physical, and everything's fine. You know how you have to go in and get a physical and, your blood work and all of that stuff. And here's where I'm going with this. It took everything in me to even make the appointment. And then even when I'm there, she's asking me all these questions or what have you. How can I, am I exercising? How am I eat? I couldn't answer nothing. I'm just like, look, I've been carrying so much around. I can't even tell you when was the last time, I exercise on a regular basis, or I did this or I did that. I could barely answer the questions. I'm just being honest with you. And even when I was at the appointment, and I'm just being very, very honest with you all, I had to stop myself several times from just going through my phone, just making sure with my, I have two other sons. I don't want to go to the details, but just some situations with them, making sure that that was taken care of. Then I'm going back and forth with a couple of my staff members about some things. And then I'm thinking through something with this situation. And then I'm forwarding a financial report to somebody. And I'm just like, what? Really? I'm just like, really? Here I am, trying to take a little bit of time off to myself. And I have the audacity to sit there and not even be in the moment. Because you want to know what? I was holding this big box. This big box. So I had to force myself to put that doggone phone down, take my time, answer the questions the doctor was asking me. And I do want to say in the last 2 or 3 nights or so, I've been on a routine of exercising and stretching and doing some things to take care of myself, and trying my best to watch what I'm eating and how I'm eating. But I'm not going to lie to you all, because I'll never lie to you. I'm just starting to do that stuff. I really am. I'm the kind of person that I'm always giving to other people, and I want to make sure that everyone else is taken care of, and I give to myself last. And I know that I'm not the only one like that. I know that you all do the same as well. I know you do. You know, I've really gotten to know so many of you. You guys are so wonderful. It's just unreal. The messages you send me, and I just love you all so much. It's amazing how our stories are so similar. That's what blows me away. So many times when I think about what I'm going to talk about, like today, I didn't have any thought in mind in terms of, okay, what am I going to talk about other than, well, typically my listeners go through what I go through. So if I'm struggling with realizing that I'm important, that it's okay to take a half a day off or a day off to take care of me, that even if I don't have anything to do, or if I have a lot to do, it's okay for me to take some time out to go for a 15-minute or a 30-minute walk. If I struggle with doing that, I know for a fact that some of my listeners have to struggle with the same thing. And you guys, the truth of the matter is, as I said before, life is so short. You are important as well. Physically, mentally, and we did a post on that a while ago. Remember, we talked about taking care of yourself? This is just another level to that conversation. You get to pick the box back up. You see, I picked it back up. It's not going to go anywhere. Well, unfortunately, that's another subject. That's another podcast episode about letting God carry your loads, but I'm not going to go down that track. The point I'm trying to get at is that we can put it down for a little bit, and I'm trying myself. I am. And take care of ourselves and realize that we're important as well. I'm not going to go too far into what I'm going to do at my 100th episode, but I can't wait to talk to you guys about some of the things that God has put in my heart to do. Some things I don't want to do at all, which is about taking care of myself, and adding some more segments and some things to this to really, I guess I should say, to really allow God to show all of me, you know, in all of the areas of my life in which he's molding and growing me, and to bring that to the table. So I will give you a sneak preview by just saying one of them is going to be involved around taking care of ourselves, eating better, exercising, taking better care of ourselves. And I got to be honest with you, I don't want to do it at all. I really don't. I really, really don't. And that is the God honest truth. But I know that if I struggle with it, you guys do as well. So for some of you that are saying, well, give me an example in the Bible when, somebody took care of themselves, or somebody, set the box down a little bit and got centered. I have an example for you. So let me set my little box down a little bit. And I think the best example in the world, oh my goodness, I don't have my glasses with me, but that's okay. I think the best example in the world is Jesus. So turn over to Matthew chapter 14, and I'm just going to fly through this a little bit, but if you don't have time to finish listening to the rest of the podcast, read Matthew chapter 14 and just walk with Jesus and look at how his day and his nights went. Sometimes when I read the scriptures, I like to just picture that I was there with them and just observing what's going on. So I'm just going to go through it very, very briefly. And I'm going to pause at just 2 points in here I want to nail. So in chapter 14, we all know, well, I shouldn't say we all know. Let me just explain. John the Baptist, unfortunately, was killed. He was actually beheaded. And you can read that story to understand all about that and what happened. And it's believed that John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin. Now, I'm not a biblical scholar, so whether it was his cousin or whether they were, related in some other way, at the very least, let's just say they loved each other very much. At the very least, whether they were a relative or not, but it's believed to be that he was a relative. And here my glasses, good. So imagine just being told some bad news about someone you care dearly about. And so in chapter 14, I'm just going to drop down to verse 12. John's disciples came and took his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus. So Jesus had just found out about the death of, let's just say, a relative or a very, very close friend. In verse 13, listen to this. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. So he just got some bad news, the weight, pressure. He got some bad news, and he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Now, hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, it says he had compassion on them and healed their sick. And then it goes on to talk about as evening approached. Basically, the disciples were going to send away the large crowd because it was basically time to eat at that point. And Jesus said in verse 16, they do not need to go away. You give them something to eat. In verse 17, it says, we have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, they answered. Bring them to me, he said. And he directed the people to sit down on the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. That's a whole nother podcast all by itself. I wish I could jump into that one, but I'm actually going someplace, so I'm going to just not comment on that one, because that alone, about how God can do so much more with less. You can go back and listen to that podcast. I think it was one of the first podcasts I had that went viral, and I think it was called God Can Do More with Less. Very, very powerful lesson. But anyway, I'll just keep going. Verse 20, they all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000, besides women and children. Now listen in verse 22. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there a while, he was there alone, but the boat was already a considerable distance from the land, and then it just goes into the story when I think it was Peter, when he looked up and saw Jesus walking on water, and that story. So you notice just in that little time frame that I just gave, there was a lot going on. The amount of pressure that was on Jesus' plate was, to me, unreal. We think we have our whole boxes, and imagine having the whole world, in essence, that was on his shoulders. Just think about that, the amount of pressure. Trying to save the world, trying to help people. Then on top of that, you get some news that a relative or a very close friend of yours was just killed in a horrible way. And he got away and he prayed. He went off to himself for a little bit. And that wasn't a selfish act. That's the only part I'm trying to get at with this. It was not a selfish act to put the box down for a little bit. Now, many would say, well, Z, he really never put the box down. He probably took it with him. However you want to word it. I don't want to get all into a biblical argument, about whether he put the box down or not. But for the sake of relevancy in my life, that is at least saying to me, oh my goodness, there's times where I've got to just sit this down a minute, and I got to get on a boat and go off privately to my own mountainside, and I've got to pray. I've got to make sure I'm taking care of me. I've got to make sure that I'm hearing from my Father. I've got to make sure that I'm going to him. So that's what I'm trying to get at, is that you are important as well. Now, some of you may be eating well and exercising and getting your physicals and doing all the things. That's great. But you still need to take time for you. You still need to take some time for you, even if that's just Bible reading, prayer, whatever it is, meditation, whatever it is that you need to do. Because most of us, as I look around in this world, And I get a lot of messages every day, you all. A lot. I'm talking thousands and thousands of comments, and there's no way I can read through them all. But I look at and glance and read enough to understand I've never in my life seen so many people so tired. And if we don't look out before you know it, in the blink of an eye, our lives are over as well. We've got to take care of ourselves. You're important. That's the only thing that I want you to hear in this message. I know you have your box. I know. I have mine too. I have mine. I have a really big box. So I know you have your box. But sometimes it's okay to put it down just for a little bit. You can even keep it close to you, okay? How about that? Keep it close to you. But put it down for a little bit and take care of you, because you are important as well. And if there's no one in your life that's telling you this, because unfortunately, oh my goodness, that's another subject. That's another subject entirely. Let me just say this. Unfortunately, people like you and I that carry such big boxes and such weight, we typically don't have people in our ear telling us that we're important as well. So I know that it may be hard for you to hear this. It may be difficult to hear these words and believe it, but you are important. And I just want you to say to yourself, I'm important. Take the time out to take care of yourself. And for those of you who are able to go get a physical, I want to encourage you to go do that. If you're not able to do that, because I understand financially not everyone can do that, please at least try to exercise, stretch. You don't even have to belong to a gym in order to do those things. Try your best to eat healthier foods and take care of yourself. All right? I need you to stay with us as long as God will allow. Take care of your bodies. Take care of yourself mentally, spiritually, and physically, okay? You're important. And if you don't hear it from anyone else, you're hearing it from me today. You are important. All right? I love you all. My community text number is going to be showing in the credits or whatever you call it, in the bio or whatever of these descriptions. I don't know if I'm going to continue saying it out loud. I'm just going to kind of let it be in the credits. So if you're watching the podcast, it'll pop up. But if you're listening, wherever you see the show description, you'll be able to see the community text number. So if you've not joined my community, please join it. You can just text me and just say hi, or just put the letter Z or anything in there, and you immediately add it so that I can let you know when I go live with some of my events. Anyway, I love you all. This is Z with Unlocking Greatness Podcast. Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. This is Z with Unlocking Greatness Podcast. Please don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification button. Love you all. Bye-bye.